Sprint to the finish, as I said. Donald Trump is testing his appeal to voters outside the GOP heartland by holding rallies today in Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. States won by President Obama 4 years ago. Hillary Clinton is in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New Hampshire, traditional battleground states where some polling has shown either she is locked in a virtual tie or now trailing Trump. In Florida late yesterday, the Democratic nominee hit with a deluge of rain, but kept making her case through the raindrops.
Now, my friends, you are a hardy bunch standing out here in the rain. I don't think I need to tell you all of the wrong things about Donald Trump, but here's what I want you to remember. I want to be the president for everybody. Everybody who agrees with me, people who don't agree with me, people who vote for me, people who don't vote for me.
I think she was laughing at the rain there. I don't know. In Denver last night, Donald Trump took a swipe at the recent changes in his opponent's travel plans, as Clinton has now added a Monday stop in a very blue Michigan. Watch.
I know Hillary, all of a sudden, she's making all of these trips. She's going all over the place. She was supposed to be home sleeping. Michigan was never really in play for a Republican. But you know what? It's in play for us because all of their cars are being made now in Mexico.
Senior national correspondent John Roberts is traveling with the Trump campaign, bringing us the news from Sioux City, Iowa, a state Mr. Trump hopes to flip Tuesday. Good to see you, John.
Hey, good to see you too, Harris. About 5,000 people should be here at the convention center in Sioux City for the Donald Trump rally, which begins in about an hour's time. Some tense moments, though, on the campaign trail yesterday in Reno, when for the second time in this campaign, Secret Service agents jumped on stage to protect the candidate. You remember it happened in Dayton, Ohio, back in March when somebody tried to rush the stage. Yesterday, what happened was somebody at the very front of the rally started shouting, "Gun, gun." A senior security aide told me that what seemed to happen was that a protester was trying to take something out of his waistband. The people who were gathered around him were trying to figure out what he was trying to do. Was it a sign or was it potentially a weapon? Somebody thought it was a weapon and started shouting "gun." That's when security came over the fence, put the guy on the floor and hauled him away. Austin Kreitz, a 33-year-old, says that all he was trying to do was pull out a sign that said "Republicans against Trump." While many people say he's a Hillary Clinton supporter, a Democrat, he says he's a lifelong Republican, but he just can't support Donald Trump in this campaign. In the state of Nevada, Donald Trump has got some work to do. He needs to counter a massive surge in Hispanic votes that has come out in early voting in the last few days. So at that rally last night, appealing to voters in Washoe County and in Elko in the northern part of the state to get out on Election Day and put him over the top. Here's what he said.
Reno and northern Nevada can carry this state and can carry us all the way to Washington and the White House. This will be our last chance, but don't let crazy, broken Harry Reid and his corrupt political machine decide this election for you.
If Donald Trump hopes to win the White House, he needs to win all 5 battlegrounds that he currently leads in, plus the state of Florida, plus the 2nd congressional district in Maine. He's also trying to expand the map at the same time, though, going to states like Minnesota today. He's also going to Michigan and Virginia. You know, at this point, it looks like this could be a close race. So that again raises the question, if it doesn't turn out in Donald Trump's favor, will he accept the results of the election? Chris Wallace put that question to his running mate, Mike Pence, earlier today on Fox News Sunday. Let's listen to that exchange.
Can you guarantee he'll put this behind us and accept the result?
The campaign's made it very clear that, you know, a clear outcome, obviously both sides will accept. But I think both campaigns have also been very clear that, you know, in the event of disputed results, they reserve all legal rights and remedies.
And early voting ends in the state of Florida today. All the counties will be wrapped up by this evening, Harris. And what we're seeing now is that in the overall tally between absentee mail-in votes and in-person votes, Democrats have a lead of about 32,000 in their registered voters coming out. That is much better for Republicans than it was in 2012 when they were behind by about 110,000. But they still need to get a lot of people out to the polls there on Tuesday. So that's why Donald Trump will be going back to Florida again tomorrow. In total, he's doing 10 events in 10 states between today and tomorrow. Very busy travel schedule. Harris?
Well, and it's interesting, John, because what you're alluding to there is just the intensity of votership down in Florida for Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton when you look at how many are registered at this point. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. The news continues now. Let's go to Hillary Clinton, who is starting her day in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Later today, she'll head to Ohio and New Hampshire, where she'll focus on energizing voters who usually support the Democratic nominee, but apparently need an extra boost at this point. Senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel is live from Philadelphia. Mike?
Harris, good afternoon to you. Hillary Clinton's expected to make a couple of unannounced stops before leaving Philadelphia. She's on her way to church right now, and then we'll head on to those other key states. The Clinton team is sending additional resources to Michigan. I should note Hillary Clinton was just in Michigan on Friday. Her husband, the former president, will campaign there today. President Obama will rally support there tomorrow. Michigan is typically a safe state for Democrats, but perhaps there is something there to watch. Her running mate, Tim Kaine, is also in the Midwest today. He's in Wisconsin, and he talked to supporters about finishing the job.
If you're trying to do something for the first time that's never been done, you're trying to, be a path breaker when it's never happened, you have to assume that it's going to be tough. Making history is tough. Doing things for the first time are tough. And that's why we've just got to stay disciplined and battle all the way to the end.
Last night here in Philadelphia, Hillary Clinton had some more celebrity help in the form of Katy Perry doing a concert for supporters here in the city of brotherly love. Perry told young supporters there is no excuse for sitting this election out, and Clinton paid tribute to the pop star for her message of toughness. Clinton is not done here in Pennsylvania. She's going to make 2 stops here tomorrow, including a rally with the president and first lady here on election eve. And Harris, may I just note, I'm truly jealous of Steve Hayes. He is really one lucky guy today.
You are so sweet. Well, thank you. Well, we're jealous of you because we like to be out in the field as well. So maybe we'll swap sometime. Good to see you.
Come on down.
All right. I hear the water's warm. Thank you. All right, let's start with Pennsylvania. I mean, at first I was a little baffled, but I saw earlier on Fox News, we were talking with a member of the campaign for Clinton. They're pouring all their eggs into Pennsylvania because they think if they can stop Trump there, what happens?
Yeah, I think I would say Pennsylvania and Michigan, right? I mean, they seem to be.
Well, Michigan's another story because of the black and poor vote there, but yeah.
Well, Trump has targeted Pennsylvania in particular, also Michigan, sort of from the beginning. I mean, his argument has been, I can win this, downscale vote. People are frustrated with the economy in places like Pennsylvania, in places like Michigan. That's going to propel me to victory. We're seeing now the Clinton campaign say, this is where we're going to stop you. This is where we're going to keep you from building momentum to take you through Tuesday. I think what's interesting in Michigan in particular is Hillary Clinton's been back up on the air with these scorched earth ads going after Donald Trump, really taking it to him. And it suggests to me that there must be something in the polling that they're seeing, that the Clinton campaign is seeing, to spend as much time as they're spending there to do these kind of ads. I think it's fair to conclude that they see the race tightening in Michigan in particular.
Yeah, very, very interesting. The economy has been something that I know you thirst for everybody to stay on because that's really what motivates most people.
Well, that's really what this election is coming down to. And when you talk about the black vote and the black unemployment rate in this country is basically about twice the national average for unemployment. That's a huge issue, and especially in some of those Midwest cities. When you look in Minnesota and Michigan, that's a big deal. Looking down in Florida, speaking of the black vote and the turnout, not what it was for Obama, what we're seeing so far. Where are you most worried if you're Donald Trump right now?
I mean, I think he's been competitive in Florida. The early vote suggests that he's outperforming what was happening in 2012. I think the problem for Donald Trump, and we're seeing it reflected in his travel schedule here at the end, is he can't focus on just a state or two. He's got to try to get to 6 or 7 different states, whereas Hillary Clinton thinks that she can say, if I stop him here and if I stop him there, I block his path to 270.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Well, one thing that we haven't talked much about is the weather and how that comes into play. So they both have their own planes, and so they can skip around town basically all the way through Tuesday. As we look at the national map, the weather looks good for Tuesday night. Who do you think that benefits?
The weather being good?
Yeah. I mean, because that means more people will get out to vote. No, it's a thing. We talk about it.
You know, in all seriousness, I keep having flashbacks to the final 4 days of my father's campaign where we did 24 hours straight on a plane. Ooh. And this, for any campaign, both campaigns right now, to say this is like end ultimate mode where you're just running on adrenaline and caffeine and trying to get it out. I don't think they care. I think they're just trying to go through the motions. I know how exhausted these people are and their team is. And at this point, I always wonder what these final days of rallies does other than excite your base and try and keep up the momentum and appearances for each candidate. I kind of think the cake is baked to really a very large extent at this point.
All right, so we do have some states where we'll have game day voting. That's where they didn't have early in-person voting, and so that's going to count. Pennsylvania is one of those counts. So you asked why they would have a rally. Hillary Clinton was doing the concert thing, in part because when you give away those free tickets, you're able to do what? You can get information from that person, you can mobilize that person, you can organize that person to go out and vote. Well, and we're still ahead of Election Day. So that's a thought. What do you think?
Definitely. And Pennsylvania is exactly as you put it, a place where there is no early voting, so they have to get them to the polls on Tuesday. Look, she's got to do well in places, obviously Philly alone, but not just Philly. The areas around Philly, Bucks County, Montgomery County, the suburban Philly areas are the ones that make or break this election. That's where, and I've talked about this before, white, college-educated women tend to live. A demographic that has traditionally gone for Republicans and went for Romney by 6 points last time. She's up, according to the Washington Post, by 27. With that demographic, that's what she's focusing on. That's why you're seeing her appeal on specifically women's issues. That's why you're seeing her talk about women's issues. That's her firewall, the white, college-educated woman that lives in those.
You're really hung up on this because you hit this on every show. Is that going to determine the race?
I think that's a large part of what determines this race. Something else that determines this race that you've seen in places like Clark County, Nevada, or Broward County, Florida. Latinos. You have Latinos coming out and surging in ways they haven't before. Whether they're surging for her or surging against Trump is irrelevant to this necessarily. But what you see from early voting in places like Clark County, Nevada, largely thanks to the Latino turnout, is that Nevada is essentially precluded for Trump unless he has some sort of miracle on Election Day, which is harder and harder numerically to get to.
An excellent point about the Latino vote, too, because the big question is who mobilized whom? Was it him to mobilize people to vote against him with some of the things he said? Or maybe she did something to get them on her side. But what would that have been?
Well, she gave a speech in one of her stump speeches just the other day. She said, we're all coming out and you're voting for me, for my agenda. And in reality, the opposite is more likely true. Agreed. People are voting against Trump.
All right, excited to be here on a pre-election special edition Sunday of Outnumbered. And on Election Day, Fox News Channel is the only place to be. You know that. From dawn until the wee hours of the next morning. We will have coverage from across America and the very best analysis for you. And we want you to be part of our election night coverage. So if you voted or are getting ready to vote, post your picture on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram with the hashtag Fox News 2016. You could see it on air on election night from our brand new super fancy studio.
Super fancy.
Yeah, super fancy. Okay. Less than 48 hours until Election Day. Hillary Clinton is holding on to a fragile lead in most of the polling. But they also show, those polls, that Donald Trump appears to have other advantages. What that could mean at the ballot box. And Donald Trump appearing to show his softer side, kissing babies and doting on his wife. Whether that could give him a boost with the women voters. I see Julie. How she feels about that.
Fox News alert for you. Polls showing Hillary Clinton is holding on to a fragile lead ahead of Election Day. But Donald Trump appears to have other advantages. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average of polls has Clinton ahead by 2 points. But when it comes to enthusiasm and interest in the election, Trump has the lead. New Fox polling showing more of Trump's backers say they strongly support their candidate than Clinton supporters, 71 to 65%. They also show Trump's supporters are more likely than Hillary's to be extremely interested in the race, 63 to 54%. What do you make of these numbers, Stephen Hayes?
Well, I mean, to go back to Harris's question earlier about the weather, I mean, that suggested of Hillary Clinton, she would like a good weather day because you get people who aren't as intense out to polls and potentially to support her. Look, I think it's very true that Donald Trump has intense support among his most ardent backers. We've known this for a long time. The question is, how many of them are there? And I think polling suggests in the past couple of days that she seems to be building a lead. Some of the national polling, the tracking polling, ABC Washington Post is now up to 5.
I was going to say, is there one in particular that you're looking at that you kind of say, yeah, that might be?
Well, I mean, the ABC Washington Post poll has bounced around quite a bit over the last few weeks, but it had tightened. It had tightened considerably to basically a virtual tie in the aftermath of the Comey letter and all of the discussion. But she seems to be now widening her very narrow lead, if that's to be believed.
You know, the one thing I want to say about that poll, because that poll has an interesting statistic. So you said it's 5 points, which is she's up by 5, but also 55% of her voters support her, and that's why they're voting. 43% of his voters support him. The rest are just voting against her. So she seems to have more affirmative support for her voters than he has affirmative support for himself among his voters. Whether that makes a difference or not in terms of enthusiasm, I don't know. Are they motivated to vote? It seems like the Trump voters are more motivated to vote because they just can't stand her. They just hate her.
Well, I can understand that.
I'm sure you do. But the question is, and Harris raises a good point, which is it's all about the get out the vote mechanism. Yeah. She's got a good ground game. He does not. Yeah. He left it to the RNC to take care of. He shouldn't have done that, and he should have built his own organization, and that's going to make the difference.
And what's interesting, I'm so glad you brought that up because I would have forgotten to say it. So the RNC in the last few days has said where they are with getting out the vote is about 12 million. They were about 11.5 last time around in 2012. But that doesn't mean that's for Donald Trump. And whenever I see that report, I'm like, yeah, but that's for everybody that they're doing that to. We don't know what percentage that Donald Trump really has access to or benefits from those door knocks.
It's
those
down ballot as well.
Door knocks that they're doing.
You know what has really benefited, at least my father in Arizona, are these Obamacare premiums. I think a lot of voters, seeing how high it's gone. I talked about a girl I personally know where it's almost as much as her mortgage. I mean, I think for people, they just know that Hillary is an extension of the same, except, as Governor Huckabee said, on steroids. And people are willing to roll the dice for Donald Trump. They don't know what they're necessarily going to get, but they know they don't want to continue on Obamacare.
All right, so based on what
everything
you
else
said in the last block, you said you feel like the cake is pretty much baked at this point. So with this narrow of a margin that she is leading by in this latest polling, who do you think it goes to, Megan?
I do not want to read the tea leaves in this election. I've been wrong every single point all the way along. I think it's going to be a very late night. My question is, honestly, to go back to, like, I know what it feels like to be on an election night when you lose. If either of these candidates lose, I couldn't even explain it properly, but it's an assault to your senses in a way that I cannot describe, and you have to be stoic and traditionally a statesman or a stateswoman. And if I know Donald Trump and he ends up losing, I mean, I see him going nuclear. And I see his fans and supporters going nuclear, and I actually don't think this thing ends on Tuesday night.
May I say something actually very relevant about not your situation, but I assume your father's situation, and I'm certainly not speaking for him, but I'll use this as an example. When you have the RNC or the John McCain for Senate campaign getting the vote out as opposed to Donald Trump, what John McCain may be pulling, I'm using him as an example, I don't know if this is accurate, he's pulling his supporters, right? John McCain's identified his supporters. There are people who are voting for John McCain, but John McCain leads Donald Trump by a significant margin in Arizona. So those are voters that may be voting for Hillary or voting for Evan McMullin or voting for Gary Johnson and then voting for John McCain. That's not good for Trump. What Trump needs to do is pull his voters. If he's relying on the RNC or the Senate races to do it, they're going to pull voters that are beneficial to their Senate races and not necessarily to
I would think so,
right.
yeah. I mean,
That's
they say that they're giving him access to certain things and they're helping him out. We just don't know the percentage of that. So real quickly, money on a ground game. So we know that Donald Trump in the last day or so has said that he's going to be spending some cash on a ground game. What can you buy?
Yeah, you can't rent a ground game at this point. I mean, you have to build a ground game. You have to have the network in place. And Julie's exactly right. I mean,
money does
talk. You have to have people who are for you, not just for Republicans sort of generically.
All right. Meantime, there are signs pointing to a possible erosion in Hillary's so-called blue firewall. She's adding stops to states that have voted Democratic for years. What that says about her campaign's possible concerns at this point, plus the new questions the Democrat is facing after more of her emails were found to contain classified information. The Fox polls that show how much this issue is still hurting her.
Fox News Alert, as we are watching some things now, this is one of them. With fewer than 48 hours until voters head to the polls, we're awaiting remarks from Hillary Clinton at a church in Philadelphia. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker will introduce her. And when she speaks, we'll bring you that live. Meanwhile, we are seeing growing questions about whether Hillary Clinton's electoral firewall is crumbling. That firewall consists of 6 states: Colorado, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Hampshire. 3 of those she's trying to hit today. States that reliably vote Democratic or have been solidly in Clinton's camp throughout the election cycle. But recent polling shows the race is tightening in those states in particular, forcing Hillary to spend the last few days crisscrossing them and to spend millions of dollars on ads. Now Donald Trump's campaign is pushing hard in those states as well. He says Michigan is in play, but Clinton's campaign chairman John Podesta says they feel confident, and it's all about voter turnout. So you heard me talk about it earlier, game day voting, because that's the day they didn't have in some of these states early in-person voting. So talk to me a little bit about Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying earlier, I think Michigan is a place where the internal polling suggests that it's tightening a little bit. You're seeing that borne out in the campaign activity.
Can I ask you a question? Why isn't Donald Trump going there first instead of Minnesota?
I don't know. I don't understand the Minnesota stuff, honestly. He canceled he had a rally scheduled for today in Wisconsin, which he canceled. He added this stop in Minnesota. Republicans haven't done well in Minnesota. Maybe they're seeing something. Maybe this is a spaghetti against the wall last 3-day strategy. But I don't see what good a stop in Minnesota. I will be stunned if Donald Trump wins Minnesota.
But it's clear that Pennsylvania and Michigan are sore spots potentially for Hillary Clinton.
There's a lot of sore spots right now. How much, and going back to your original comments when we started off the show, giving us your personal look inside of the campaign schedule in these final couple of days, how much are they altering their schedule hour by hour as they look at this polling, especially tightening in some of these Midwest states?
I mean, it can happen. Again, I don't understand the Minnesota thing either. I would be hammering all the swing states. I would actually be going to Arizona if I were him as well. It's still in play. Funnily enough, when we were talking about her campaigning with Cory Booker, she's bleeding the African-American vote. There just isn't the same enthusiasm for her that there was for President Obama. I was curious if she's regretting picking Tim Kaine. He's been so boring. I don't think he's been an asset to her at all. The original launch of him I thought was fantastic. Past that, bombed during the debate, bringing no enthusiasm. Looks like she may lose Virginia. Kind of Cory Booker looking pretty good right now, just saying.
I wonder why she didn't. By the way, full disclosure, so I'm talking, and we had the live picture of Philly moments ago, and I said that Cory Booker was going to introduce, and you were over there just cheering. You love Senator Booker.
He's my, listen.
Democrats love him.
He's my.
So why didn't she pick somebody younger, a person of color, or so on and so forth?
He's a client, so I love him because
all right,
he's
well, you like him because he pays you to, but.
Well, no, he doesn't pay me anymore, but he was a client, and I love him, and I know him well, so that's
But why not pick somebody like that?
I guess she decided that Tim Kaine, for a variety of reasons, was the better choice. Look, I was supportive of Cory Booker, but that's because I personally love Cory Booker. I think that what she's doing right now in places like Pennsylvania and Philly with Cory Booker is this is a get out the vote operation. This is not because she's nervous about Philly or about Pennsylvania. Look, Pennsylvania, I said this before, it's like Lucy with the football. The Republicans fall for this every time, where they pull the football away. They're like Charlie Brown, and Lucy pulls the football away at the last second, and they fall for it every election cycle. Haven't won Pennsylvania since '88. Demographically, Pennsylvania has become much where Virginia is now trending to be, which is demographically.
It's a different election, Julie.
It's not a different, people think it's a different election because everybody thinks every cycle is a different election. It's not.
Well, this one really has been different.
But it is rhetorically, but demographically, how does Donald Trump appeal to people in inner city Philly? More importantly, what about Donald Trump would appeal to somebody in Bucks County,
Pennsylvania? So
Pennsylvania?
why is it so tight?
It's not tight.
And by the way, I don't think I've watched enough Peanuts to understand the Lucy with the football.
Really? No. You don't remember that? Charlie Brown goes and runs and she pulls it away.
We'll explain later. All right, meantime, Hillary Clinton facing new questions about her email practices. The State Department finding 2 more of her messages contained classified information. According to redacted versions released Friday, her emails did not contain markings at the time, something Clinton's defenders say excuses her, but voters don't seem to be giving her a free pass. A new Fox News poll showing 21% of independents say the renewed FBI probe into Hillary's emails makes them less likely to vote for her. And check this out. 59% of likely voters say her use of a private server still bugs them. And a short while ago, our own Chris Wallace put this to Clinton's chief campaign strategist.
Do you think the FBI announcement, now a week and a half old, has hurt Clinton? No, I don't. I think it obviously occupied a lot of airspace, but I think, you know, we've been knocking on doors. We have had lines all weekend at our phone banks of people waiting to get in. We've knocked on 2 million doors this weekend. And I think where you're seeing the enthusiasm is in the early vote.
He's great.
I mean,
we all
he's a
watched
smart
that.
guy.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He's a good pollster. But come on.
Yeah.
He doesn't think that what happened over the past week hurt Hillary Clinton. That's crazy talk. It's the kind of spin you expect to get on the weekend before the election. Clearly, it's hurt her. You know, what we found is ever since Bernie Sanders said that he didn't care about her damn emails, majority of the American public actually does care about her damn emails, in part because we've seen her be consistently dishonest about what she did, why
Was
she
that a
did
reference back to Bernie Sanders talking about, I don't want to talk about those damn emails?
Yeah, he
All right,
didn't want to talk about them, but
Julia
everybody else
Roginski,
did.
just showing that people do care. This is the latest Fox News polling on this. When asked, how concerned are you that these scandals will have a serious effect on the candidates' administrations if elected? 46% said very in Clinton's case, to 32% in Trump's case. Not at all, 16% Clinton, 26% Trump. People care.
Of course they do. I care because I know what's going to happen if she gets elected. You'll have investigation after investigation. Anybody who says they don't care is living in la-la land because, of course, it's going to have an effect. If you have a Republican House and Jason Chaffetz is already saying that he's going to investigate. If when, right. So if she wins, so ultimately it's going to happen. But to go back to Steve's point, both you and Joel Benenson, who I also have to disclose is a friend also, but can be right about this. And the reason he can is it could have had an effect. Maybe they have internal numbers, I don't know, that shows that it's now stabilized, that they don't have an effect anymore. I don't know the answer to that. I obviously am not privy to their polling, but I can tell you that it could have had an effect, and then the voters came home back to the Democratic Party potentially. So he could be right about that as we sit here today, as opposed to last week.
So Meghan McCain, you have been there with your dad when he has run time and time again, and things come up late in the campaign. And what are the discussions like behind the scenes that kind of get you to then move forward beyond things?
What do you mean, like moving past the...
Yeah, whatever's going on.
I mean, for my family, it was like a lot of alcohol and prayer, but I'm sure theirs is quite different.
The best way to live.
But I mean, stuff comes up for campaigns all the time. They're usually not FBI investigations.
Yeah, I mean, I think each campaign is a reflection of the candidate's personality. So Hillary Clinton's is very uptight, very closed off, and not very fun. Donald Trump seems like he's still having a great time. He's got his family out there. He's calling his wife baby on the campaign trail. I think it's all a reflection of the candidate's personality. It doesn't matter how many Jay-Z, Beyonce, Katy Perry people come out to act like they're excited about Hillary Clinton. Millennials just aren't. I find it fascinating that they're just maybe opting to stay out. The last remaining question, white college-educated voters. You're obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with them. Women. And I am interested to see if they end up coming home to her or if they just, pull the lever and say, I'm going for Trump.
There are some other people in the race, though.
Did you know, can I ask you, did you know the Sunday before the election, did you know he was going to lose?
No, I was blissfully naive, and you have to be. Like, you have to vacuum yourself and only see success. But I
like that.
The Sunday before?
I think, yes, there were people around him that did know, but I was like ride or die till the end at the very last moment.
Might have been the alcohol.
That's how you're supposed to be.
So what was that word you used? You were vacuum? What?
You got to be in a vacuum. You really do. It's like being in a foxhole of some kind, and your campaign becomes your extended family. And so you're together and you're like, this will never end. We're going to keep going.
So fascinating.
But I know for the Romneys, it was the same way, so much so that they had hired fireworks to go off in Boston at the time that they had paid a lot of money for. Didn't end up happening. Listen, if you believe in something the way Trump clearly does his supporters and the way, I don't know if I would say the same thing about Hillary, but you're not going to believe it's over. And even when you get the results, it's hard to believe that it's over.
Wow.
All right, Donald Trump appearing to show his softer side in the final days of this race, kissing babies and doting on his wife. What he was overheard saying to Melania and whether it could help him with female voters.
In the final sprint to Election Day, Donald Trump is starting to show his softer side 2 days after Melania Trump spoke in Pennsylvania. She hit the trail again to introduce her husband at a rally in North Carolina. Afterwards, he hugged and kissed her and listened to what was overheard on the mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to my husband and the future President of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
That's sweet. Did you catch that? He said, "Aw, baby," as he thanked his wife. Trump then gave a shout out to the rest of his family in the audience, calling his son Eric my boy.
I have my boy, Eric, and his great wife, Laura, who comes from this area, right? Right alongside, huh?
And at a rally earlier in the day, the Republican nominee brought a baby up on stage and kissed him on the cheek. Watch.
Oh, look, a future construction worker. Look at that baby, so cute. Oh, give me that baby. Future construction worker. They did a great job. Wow. That is a great, beautiful baby. Congratulations.
So is that like a little Halloween outfit?
Oh, listen, Julie, don't rain on our...
As dark as this election has been in so many ways, this is one of the things people love about politics. I mean, it's like the endearment.
So why did it take him so long?
I don't know, but
where has Melania been?
Listen, she's an asset to him in some ways. I don't think in all ways, but she really is. I would have preferred a lot more Ivanka, a lot more Melania in these last few weeks.
So where'd they go, Steve?
No idea. It is funny at the end of a campaign, people get almost like punch drunk. I mean, in some cases, maybe they got actually drunk, but
There's a point.
Sometimes the candidates get punch drunk, and it's sort of like they're coming to the end of this.
I don't think that looked contrived at all. Like that was maybe he's just a lot more comfortable on the trail and. But you suggested maybe it's a little too late to start
I don't think if you want to make, Donald Trump has been sort of unconventional this whole time, and he's not scripted the way that Hillary Clinton is. We saw in that moment in the rain. I mean, people have made a big deal about Hillary Clinton continuing to speak in the rain as if it's some kind of heroic thing, and it's not. But it did show her as, she looked like she was having fun, and she doesn't often look like she's having fun.
After those women started coming out and talking about allegations that they made against Donald Trump, he should have immediately done what he did.
Sandra
today.
said the same thing.
Bring out Melania. Ivanka, I know Ivanka's busy trying to save the brand, but if she wanted to have her father get elected, she should have come out. And I don't understand for the life of me why his two strongest assets, which are his wife, who could really vouch for him on this score, and his daughter, who is respected universally, are not two people that they immediately brought out while he was doing this himself, as opposed to softening his image. Kissing babies, I get it. Look, all politicians do it, but it made him look like a human being. I wasn't actually rolling my eyes. I thought the baby was cute.
Oh, it's hard to read your facial expressions because you were like...
No, I was more, the construction worker comment, I was a little...
But by saying that... but anyway, so going back to your point, Melania and Ivanka could have certainly been used a little bit more to suggest that they were trying to save the brand.
Well,
would
Ivanka,
indicate that somehow it was dying.
Well, the brand, if you read articles, actually, people are starting. It is starting to affect.
But she's got brands, and she's running companies.
No,
it's starting to affect. It's starting to affect her brand.
There's a protest against her clothing line to be pulled out of Nordstrom's right now.
Fair enough, but right now they're on the trail. Could this help in the last couple of days?
Probably not. I think people have very firm opinions of both of these candidates. You do have a higher percentage of undecided voters, according to recent polling. And it'll be interesting to see in the exit polling how many people made their decision in this last week. But I don't think you're going to fundamentally change perceptions of each of these candidates. I think Americans think they know the candidates, and they've got their mind made up in many cases.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hear you say that, and at the same time, I know how toxic it is for people to talk about their politics right now. And so I wonder if we have any idea what people are really going to do. I really do. I've wondered that for at least since the conventions. The toxicity level is high.
It is high, but look, polls are typically in the aggregate, not specific polls, but in the aggregate, polls are typically right. And you have a good sense of how people are going to vote demographically. I keep talking about modeling. That's a very good predictor of how people are going to vote. So, despite the fact that everybody hates everybody else right now that disagrees with them, we've become more polarized than ever, and it's become more toxic than ever. I think people have a fairly good sense of how they're going to vote.
So who can bring us together? Maybe that's the closing argument from one of these two.
Alcohol and prayer.
Alcohol and prayer works for me every time.
Well, this was fun to do on a Sunday, right? Outnumbered. Now we're less than 48 hours until people begin heading to the polls. And on Election Day, Fox News Channel is the only place to be from dawn until the wee hours of the next morning. We will have coverage from all over the nation and, of course, the very best analysis for you. So watch us. And watch with us, because we're going to be all over our devices and everything, too. Yeah, sleep is overrated, honey. Wednesdays. Stephen Hayes, did you have a good time?
I did. Thanks for having me.
All right,
I love
thank
it.
you. Good to have you here. A lot going on, lots of live events, so stay here all day long with Fox News Channel on this fine Sunday. We'll see you back.